living. Crypto is on the rise, making that dough in the crypto paradise. Watching it go, buying low, selling high. Riding the wave, I'm here to stay, living in the digital age. No banks, no fees, just decentralized. It's crypto paradise. Ooh. No banks, no.
Alrighty, let's kick this thing off. Surfers, good morning from paradise. Happy Tuesday, March 3rd. My name is Crypto Amaru, joined as always by Nick, the Crypto Hitman, and we have a great show for you guys today. What are we talking about? What everyone else is talking about. The Iran war stretches on to its fourth or fifth day here. Fallout continues in the global financial markets. Oil prices up, European energy prices up, stock market down, crypto actually looking pretty decent, all things considered. I think the question on everyone's mind is, what does this war mean for the long term on your portfolios? It's going to come down to the duration of this thing ultimately, but we have some interesting conflicting thoughts as to whether this war will actually be good for risk assets or whether it will be bad for risk assets. So we will debate, we will discuss whether this is inflationary or whether the Fed is going to have to print money to cover the cost of the war. All right, we're on day 4 or 5 of this thing. It seems like it's spreading a little bit. Other nations entering the fray, perhaps you could say. Lebanon, it looks like the UAE is in on it against the Iranians, funny enough. But I guess the question I have for you, Nick, is, are you concerned this war is going to spread further and last longer than everyone is thinking? Or we're good, it's going to end in 3 or 4 weeks?
I don't know. Jim Tapper just did a handheld video from his car. Jim Tapper is a CNN guy, so somebody who is very anti-Trump, very anti-Republican, and he said it in a monotone voice because he hates to admit anything is good, but he said he did a 9-minute call with Trump and kind of went through all the quotes, and Trump said, hey, we're hitting Iran hard, we're about to hit them harder. The expectations of this was for 4 weeks of quote-unquote war. He thinks they're ahead of schedule. He said the biggest surprise was that Iran did what we talked about yesterday and just started randomly bombing other Arab countries, hitting France, because he said essentially those countries were just bystanders supporting us but just watching. And now he said all of those leaders have called him, being Trump, and said that they want to actively fight in this as well to stomp out Iran. So I think Iran made a big mistake in doing that, because now those countries that were just bystanders and maybe funneling some money to the United States now are actively going to use missiles, military, and might to also attack and destroy Iran. So we'll see. Obviously, Trump is going to say our depiction is 4 weeks and it's going to be short, but I believe him when he says his goal is 4 weeks. He thinks they're ahead of the curve, and they're even more so ahead of the curve now because all these other leaders are wanting to jump into the war as well and do what they can to stop this regime in Iran.
Yeah, what I think people understand is that the power to stop the war is almost entirely in Trump's hands. So he could end it tomorrow if he wanted, right? Once Iran stops getting attacked, they're not going to continue to attack other people. They'll end the war as well. So, it's not something that I think is going to continue for longer than Trump wants it to continue or needs it to continue. I never understood the Iranian strategy of attacking everyone around you. Like, that was retarded, I think, to begin with. And obviously you're seeing the effects of that with what you mentioned. Yeah, I mean, I'm not overly concerned yet. I think if this lasts for a month, 2 months, and energy price to oil's above $100, you're going to have to start worrying about the inflationary effects of that. And the Fed, I'm sure, is concerned about it. They're not going to cut rates. Chances of them cutting rates is already basically at nil for March. We'll have to see what the long-term effects would be. But my guess is it doesn't last that long. Trump's not dumb. He's going to look at the markets. He's going to look at the energy. He's going to look at everything holistically. And he'll make a decision as to whether to stop the bombing. And then at that point, it's going to be on the Iranian citizens to rise up and take back their government. But I did watch something that was, I thought, pretty eye-opening and concerning, or however you wanted to frame that. It was Stephen Witkoff, who is leading the negotiations along with Jared Kushner, vis-a-vis the Iranians. And he came out and said that the Iranians admitted that they had very close to Anyway, the ability to build 11 nuclear bombs. And we're wanting to do that, and we're pushing forward and trying to do that in the near term. I forget the exact dates in the exact quote from Stephen Witkoff. But for everyone who is like, I can't believe we started this war. Oh my God. Why? How could you have done this, Trump? Ask yourself if you were in his shoes what you had done and if you were told that information that the Iranians, led by at that time an insane leader who they'll die and they'll be happy about dying because they think they're going to have be with their 72 virgins. Mutually assured destruction is not a thing for these crazy Islamists. What would you have done in Trump's shoes knowing they could build 11 nukes in a short time frame?
Yeah, that was part of the Tapper quote as well, as he talked about how they were trying to, even after the bunker buster they sent, they're trying to rebuild that facility there, but the mountain was just too degraded and they couldn't start back up that nuke program from where the bunker buster was, whatever it was, 6 months ago. And another thing to go with the craziness of the leadership there, a quote came out from the supreme leader, what he said in the past, said, if virgin women go to prison, they need to be raped before thrown in prison. That way, if they die in prison, they can't go to heaven. That was an exact quote from him. So
yeah, this is the kind of
wild.
When you're marching in the streets saying like "hands off Iran," you're defending this horrible, horrible, horrible man and horrible regime. So look, I know short term it sucks. Volatility, prices down, oil up. I'm so scared. Not nearly as scared you would have been with that man having the power to shoot 11 nukes at anywhere in the world, essentially. Had he been allowed to do that. So
let's look at some technical analysis here. Interesting day today, to say the least. We saw a big rally out of Bitcoin, getting above the previous high, but not getting above the moving average that we were talking about, getting rejected there around $70,000. This is where I said the magnet was. $70,000, $70,200. It got rejected. We need to get into these moving averages. Isn't it interesting how these moving averages on the 4-hour chart, this is the 200 and the 300. You can customize these on TradingView if you want to copy what I look at, because these always seem to be magnets, and you either get rejected or you break through and see momentum. We have been rejected so far. Bitcoin, $66,300. We also see Ethereum got rejected right at the moving average. What do you know? At $2,100, back down to $1,939. We really want to hold these levels. And why are prices going down? We were doing so good yesterday. What is going on? Well, NASDAQ is down 2% today, breaking below the moving average. Remember, we were talking about how it was holding this, fighting. Well, if you look, it gave away and it gapped down lower. The moving average was serving as support. It gave it up. Next major support is right around 24,000, which is not too much further, another percent lower on NASDAQ. But I think another reason is we're seeing massive volatility in precious metals. Gold absolutely falling off a cliff, magnet to the 200 moving average to $5,000 an ounce. And we told you that silver was underperforming gold. Well, it continues to massively underperform. Big gap down for silver, below $80, falling from $96 relief rally down to $80. I want you to go back and watch the live shows from last week. What did I tell you was going to happen? We were going to see a rally. We were going to go for a $96 target. That's exactly what it said. We went to 97, and then we were going to continue to consolidate. Well, we hit $97, and now we have plummeted back to $79.99 per ounce on silver. Although I want precious metals to consolidate and stay in this trend, I do not like seeing this kind of daily volatility. Down 11% in a day. I would much rather conservative, controlled back and forth, not this, hey, we rallied from 75 to 96 and then right back to 79. I don't like that volatility, and the markets seemingly don't like it either.
Yeah, I want to go back to Bitcoin and ETH for a second, then I'll zoom out and give my stance on what's happening, kind of global macro market-wise. But for Bitcoin and even ETH, we're looking at, we've been ranging here since February between 60,000 and 70,000. So, I don't know. That's not a terrible place to be. Consolidation phase. We could be much lower right now. And if the bears were truly in control and the 4-year cyclists were truly in control, I think we probably would be lower. We got a war in Iran breaking out. Energy markets are going insane. Uncertainty everywhere. And Bitcoin still just consolidating. Same with Ethereum in that, I think, 1,900 to 2,000 range, right? So crypto markets certainly could be worse, and I'm not terribly worried about it. Globally, macro, and this kind of reminds me of, this is a bit of a black swan, right? And maybe you could argue it wasn't completely unforeseeable because Trump did surround Iran with basically all our military might. But for the most part, sort of a black swan. Anytime there's a black swan, I think there's kind of these phases to the reaction of it. Yesterday was a bit of a muted reaction. Oh, maybe this thing won't last as long as, we thought. Taking out all the leadership. Maybe they won't shut down the Strait of Hormuz. Maybe it won't expand. Maybe the energy markets will, be contained. Today, I think the market's coming around to the realization that this thing may last a few weeks, and there are risks involved with something like what's going on in the Middle East right now. And so they're reacting to it, maybe overreacting to it in the short term, as markets tend to do. So, yesterday a little calm. Okay, some more volatility today. Expect volatility until we see a bit more resolution around it and what could happen, going forward. So, not terribly surprised. Energy markets going nuts. Rest of the market spooked is what it is.
Yeah, the one bright side is PTGC. This is the one that I gave a call to yesterday to the private group and to the Surf Dow. Even with those markets selling off, you can see we've had a big rally here. Up 19% since the post to the Surf Dow and the private group, and as high as up 32% yesterday from that call that we did during the live show, but only to the private groups. What were we seeing here? We were seeing a breakout above the moving averages for the first time in multiple months, and every time PTGC breaks above these moving averages, it sees massive follow through. Now, the question is going to be, is the downtrend over? Because when you see this massive follow through, now you need the downtrend and pulse chain in the overall market to subside and for PTGC to then continue higher to new levels rather than giving up the gains and still trending lower. So we'll see what happens there, but shout out to everybody who hopped on that call in the Surf Dow or the Patreon group, or if you've just been with us for a long time. Isn't it nice to see that things we own can still go up? Just in the past couple weeks, PTGC has gone up 104% off the lows. Great to see that. And remember, we're got involved in this one at 1 million market cap, 3 million market cap, 13 million, and something like 20-something million. At these levels, you're right in that 20-something, 30-something million dollar market cap after this rally. So even amidst red, the tokens with good fundamentals, good token economics, automatic buy-in burns, automatic LP ads, those pay off in the end. Another one that has done that is Surf Token. Surf Token did drop a 0 yesterday as some small buys did come in on that token as well.
Happy to see projects that have good fundamentals, like you said, good token utility, outperform in moments like this. We'll see how long it lasts. If you're a trader, maybe, hey, take profits if you bought in and you're up 20%, because who knows what tomorrow's going to bring. But, long term, I think the likes of PTGC, Surf, et cetera, are going to be completely fine. What else do we got story-wise, news-wise to cover? I think we have some good stuff.
We got a bunch. So instead of our perfectly choreographed entry into these, when we have 5 or 6, we're really good at weaving the conversation line to make it make sense. Let's start going through these and see what we got here. Breaking: the Fed will inject 16.2, what is that, billion dollars into the U.S. economy this week. That's how you know I'm not a billionaire, because that's too many zeros for me. Good for markets, Ash Crypto says. I think last Thursday we were talking about this. They were hinting at 16 billion. Now it's 16.02 billion. What do you think that this means? Is it still QE light, or are they openly starting to pump the markets?
This is still QE light. This is providing liquidity in the overnight repo market, as it's known, I guess, liquidity for the banks. It's not really designed to drive the long-term rates that everyone pays on, their debt down. That's what QE is meant to do. This is not really that. It's probably helpful. It's probably better than them sucking money out, which they actually have been doing for a while here. So it's positive. I think it's QE light is a good way to describe it. But don't expect, markets to go gangbusters because they just continue to do this overnight repo stuff. So, happy to see it, but, temper your expectations here, folks. There's probably too much overhang around this Iran conflict for the markets to be flying anytime soon. But what else do we got story-wise here?
On this one, huge. The Federal Reserve just injected $3 billion into the U.S. banking system through overnight repos. So, I think this is just kind of honing in on part of what that $16 billion is and what you were just discussing.
Yeah, I think this is essentially the same story, if I'm not mistaken. But, again, it's positive. Happy to see it. Okay, but what we really need is the Fed to engage in QE in earnest. We need the tariff rebates to come in. We need the big, beautiful bill tax refunds to come in. We'll have to see. I mean, this is maybe we can get to the story in a sec, but the big question I have is this war, which is going to drive up the cost of energy, inflationary and therefore bad for risk assets, or is it going to incentivize the Treasury and the Fed to basically refinance and print more money to cover up the cost of the war, which is quite expensive? I think every one of our bombs costs like $100 million. So these wars can add up real quick. That'll be an interesting long-term discussion. All the talking heads I'm watching on mainstream media are talking about it's inflationary, bad for risk assets, this and that. Arthur Hayes is coming out with that contrarian take. But look at this, the Fed. 97% chance of no change.
This is the first time in maybe a month or since the last cut that this dropped below 3%. It's down to 2% for the 25% basis point cut.
Yeah, not what you want to see, is it? But
kind of surprising, but I guess that goes with the mantra that people believe energy, oil go up, inflation go up. But the problem is, I think the price of oil go up is being offset by the price of other things going down. And even if inflation does tick up, you're looking at inflation ticking up from lower than expectation levels. So maybe you're still come under expectation or at expectation, depending on the data that the Fed is seeing. Remember, Fed gets delayed data. So by the time this meeting happens, they're not going to have really data impact, or they shouldn't be using. We'll see if they want to switch up, and now they want to use accurate data. They shouldn't even be seeing the oil data that we see with the rise in price from this oil, because they're not going to have enough times for that data to actually impact the CPI readings.
Correct, and also their preferred gauge, the PCE, strips away the volatile, food and energy sector, knowing that it's so volatile. So it really shouldn't affect things, certainly on the short term. If this war lasts 2 to 4 weeks, it really won't affect much of anything at all. I think energy prices will revert back to the long-term trends. But again, we talked about yesterday. If it goes on and on, stretches on for months, Strait of Hormuz is closed for months. I mean, I was watching a CEO of a he's like a freight company, right? Shipping company. He's talking about how freight fees and charges to ship containers across the ocean have doubled from $2,500 a container to $5,000, like overnight. So, I mean, God, if this state of affairs persists for too long, your cheap bullshit tchotchkes from China are going to start costing more, which nobody wants to see that. So, a lot of craziness right now. But again, guys, all of this is preferable to Iran owning 11 nukes. Think about it for a fucking second.
Yeah, we talked about oil yesterday. What could offset some of the fear going on in the Middle East? First of all, China is going to want the strait to remain open because China gets a lot of oil from that strait there. Second of all, I think us being in power, quote unquote, in Venezuela, that's a lot of oil, potential refined oil that we didn't have access to before. Obviously, some of that money from that oil has been promised back to Venezuela as a country and to its citizen. That was part of the regime change deal over there, but still, nonetheless, that's a lot more oil coming into the market that we can kind of dictate when it gets released. And then, of course, we have drill Trump himself in power, getting a lot of these shutdown drills under a Biden turned back on and trying to get us back to a surplus, which should help offset some of the price increase on onshore oil because we have more available here that we don't need to import from the Strait of Hormuz, or we can import from Venezuela itself, which is also a lot closer.
Yeah, I mean, as I understand it, the U.S., because we basically energy self-reliant, because we do drill a lot, and you mentioned Venezuela and I'm sure other factors, that the cost of energy going up doesn't affect us nearly as much as, say, the Europeans, Chinese, Japanese, et cetera, who are basically entirely reliant on foreign oil. So, for us, I guess we're in a lucky position. My guess is, for anyone super worried about what's going to happen in the war, first of all, no one's coming to the aid of Iran. Everyone's teaming up against them because they're shooting everybody like maniacs. So I don't think this spreads into World War III. World War III. Like, no, it's Iran versus everybody else, and they're going to lose. And bring back to my earlier point, Trump does have the ability to end it tomorrow if he wanted to. So if things get out of hand in the global markets, oil goes insane, equities fall off a cliff, inflation, stock market crash, he has an off-ramp if things get really, really bad. So I'm not super worried about that outcome. Let's get a couple more days. I think people react initially with fear to any big news, any scary thing that's happening in the world, and then they kind of get used to it. Remember when Russia invaded Ukraine? Oh my God, world's coming around! Can you believe it? Oh, World War III is coming. I'm sure it's all the same. Oil's going to go to $1 billion a barrel, and energy markets did react. But then after a month, it's like, okay, sun still rose, markets didn't go to zero. That's a conflict over there. It's affecting people. It's horrible. It's not affecting everything. Okay, back to business as usual. Market go up again.
Yeah, and here's the 5-year chart for crude oil futures. And even after this, oh my gosh, oil's going insane, Iranian war. Look where you're at compared to where we've been over the past 5 years. Still well below the median price. And also remember, these are the futures, which are usually at a premium or overpricing the future. These futures are banking on extended war. That's why it's up 16%. And yeah, I mean, you can see why gas prices have trended down over the past 5 years. Well, here you go. And also, you see in the past 5 years, crude oil futures are up 16.63%, while inflation was up 22% under Biden and up another 2.5% under Trump for the year. So inflation has been 25% over the same time period, and somehow oil is actually only up 16%, underperforming even inflation, telling you that energy markets have been down over the past 5 years as far as spending power of the U.S. dollar. So even with this, oh my gosh, fear, you're still underperforming inflation by about 9% currently after this rally.
Yeah, it's not hard to see. I mean, you drive, you fill up your gas tank, and I see gas still sub $3 a barrel, or a tank, excuse me, or a gallon where I'm from. Every state's a little bit different, some more, some less. But in any event, we see gas prices now. I think that long-term trend continues. I'm not super worried. Like, everything you're seeing in the markets right now, it's just a fear-based reaction to, oh my God, what if the world ends? World War III, oil's going to go to $1 million a barrel. Guys, that's not going to happen. So just calm the F down. If you got balls, you can buy the dip.
Yeah, gold and silver are saying that World War III isn't coming. The hedges against global macros, the what you want to own during war times, have fallen off a cliff. Gold and silver have wiped out $2.4 trillion in just 3.5 hours. That's more than the total combined crypto market capitalization. Yes, that's your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, your Ripple, your stablecoins. Everything added together was lost in 2 assets in 3.5 hours. That's how early you are to crypto. Yes, everybody talks about Bitcoin and buying so much. Literally, gold and silver went down more in less than a day than all of your crypto shitcoins added together.
Yeah. We're going to look back in, I don't know, 5-10 years from now. Go, oh my God, $60,000 Bitcoin? What a steal that was. Just like I look back today and go, oh my God, $3,000, $2,500 Bitcoin, which is what it was when I first got involved. What a steal. I wish I could go back to those halcyon days of extremely cheap Bitcoin. We're going to tell the same story in 10 years now. Can't believe it. Remember the Iran conflict when everything crashed? Actually, the market didn't even crash that bad for Bitcoin. But anyway, remember a $60,000 Bitcoin? God, I wish I could have bought in then. I would have done a 10x.
Well, everybody's talking about we're bombing Iran for regime change, or we're bombing Iran for the normal cause, oil. But what if we're bombing Iran because of Bitcoin? Here's an interesting take. Nobody knows why Iran is actually being bombed, even though we do. The regime is murderous, and they just killed like 30,000 innocents who were protesting. But, you know, for fun, for entertainment purposes, Iran mines Bitcoin at $1,320 per coin, sells it at $68,000, a 50x profit margin using state-subsidized electricity, 700,000 mining rigs, 7.8 billion crypto shadow economy, all run by the IRGC, yes, funding the terrorist regime. It's the only revenue stream sanctions can't touch. Last time the U.S. hit Iran, Bitcoin's hash rate dropped 15% overnight. That wasn't a side effect. That was proof of concept. Trump created a strategic Bitcoin reserve. His son launched a Bitcoin mining company. He wants America to be the crypto capital of the world. You don't become the crypto capital by competing with a country that mines Bitcoin for $1,320. You bomb their grid. What do you think?
I mean, yes, entertaining. Maybe a kernel of truth in there. But man, X has really become a place where you got to put that critical thinking hat on. Maybe you got to have 2 critical thinking hats.
Those kind of posts get the views.
Because where the hell is he getting this information from? Somehow Iran is mining Bitcoin for that cheap? I guess it's because the theory is that they're underpaying, like, because electricity costs money. Like, I don't fully get. And where did he get the data? And where, I mean, there's a lot here. There's a lot going on here. But I love the conspiracy. And maybe there's some truth to it in terms of Iran being able to mine cheap Bitcoin. But if you think for a second that we bombed Iran because of Bitcoin and Bitcoin Reserve and Trump's son's company, come on, bro.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, there is places in the world where electricity is cheaper or more expensive, but it's like you're taking the assumption here that some random Joe Schmo, I'm buddies with the government, so I can mine it for 13.20 a coin, but it's like you still have to have the mining rigs. You still got to pay that 13.20 of government subsidized electricity, but that means the government is still paying that surplus of electricity on the back end, so therefore the Bitcoin isn't actually $1,320. Somebody is paying for the machines, somebody is paying for the electricity, and somebody's paying for the land. Although all three of those things might be cheaper over in Iran, it's not 13.20 a coin. I can almost guarantee that.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess that's what I was trying to get at. Like, those numbers just don't make sense. Maybe it's less than what the Americans pay to mine a Bitcoin. Maybe it's less than the Chinese. Whatever, but it ain't 1,300. But anyway, it's a fun story. Who knows? Maybe there's a little kernel of truth in there somewhere. I would like to see this Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, Bitcoin Strategic Reserve thing happen. Clarity Act happen. Those things are in Trump's control, more or less. But yeah, I didn't think we went to our war with Iran so we could get cheap Bitcoin.
We got Moonmutt in the house saying, "Let's go, good to be here." Man, I'm allergic to red candles. I don't like it. Like all stock market, smash that like, share, and subscribe buttons, please. That helps the algorithm. Although we get a lot of views over on Twitter, we're still trying to break through over on YouTube. So do that on YouTube. If you want your comments seen in the chat box, go on YouTube. Share it, post it. I don't know. Do what you do. Make them comments. Let's get some people making some money and buying crypto. We got Louis Lullaby 8. Good morning, surfers. Shout out to you, Miko Chapo. Martin Max King in the house. War is expensive, but pushes economy up. It does stimulate some things, that's for sure. AJ West, good morning to you, buddy. And then Fat Sammy in the house saying hi all. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, good to see you guys. Thanks for joining in. I know it's been a crazy time. Hey, this is why you got a community. You join up with some like-minded folks. You debate what this all means for your own personal life, what it means for the markets, what does it mean for the people who are genuinely impacted by it. Let's not forget that there are people who are actually, how many, 90 million people in Iran, and then all the diaspora folks directly impacted by this thing, all the military service people and their family members. So this is serious stuff, as much as we like to, make light of it. And, how does it affect our bags and this and that? At the end of the day, people's lives are at stake here, which is sort of a scary thought. But enough of that seriousness. What's going on with Bitcoin? Are we going to the moon soon?
Well, we were talking about mining over in Iran. Apparently, they can mine for $1,320, and that guy got 670,000 views, so it's got to be true. I don't think that's the case, but Bitcoin is days away from its 20 millionth coin being mined. Over 95% of the total 21 million supply ever to exist. Remember, this is why we own Bitcoin. Finite inflation rate, finite supply, and the supply is almost in full circulation. Well, Nick, that's still a million coins to go. That's more than Michael Saylor has. Holy cow. That's so much sell pressure coming from the miners in the future. Well, the final 1 million Bitcoin is going to take another 114 years from now. Do you think in the next 114 years there might be a new Bitcoin, a new technology beyond blockchain, a new hedge against inflation? Will Bitcoin become the boomer investment, just like gold is becoming the boomer investment in 114 years? I don't know. But that is a long time for the last million Bitcoin to come out and play.
Well, there's almost no chance that we will find a more pristine version of digital capital than Bitcoin. But, the other thing that this post neglects to mention, which is very important, we've already lost 3 to 4 million Bitcoin. So the total supply is really 17, 18 million Bitcoin. Satoshi's got 1 million coins. He's dead. And then you have all the coins that people lost over the years, which amounts to millions and millions. So really the total supply of Bitcoin is like 18 million or 17 million. And then you got another million to go, but that's happening in 114 years. So yeah, I'm not super worried about anything over long haul. Short term, yeah, always concerns, right? I did see news. I didn't share it with you. Mara, which is one of the biggest Bitcoin miners, they have like 500,000 Bitcoin stashed. Apparently just amended their corporate bylaws or something to basically give them the option to sell some of that Bitcoin. Does that mean they will sell it? No. Does it mean they would just dump it on the market? No. Probably do OTC sells, whatever. But not great to see one of the strongest, diamond-handed holders, Mara, talking about potentially being able to sell. Not good.
And that's similar FUD to what we saw as either Sharplink Gaming or Bitminer about 6 months ago when ETH had a little bit of a downturn. They amended the bylaws to be able to sell Ethereum as well, and that created a bunch of FUD. And then after further inspection, first of all, they haven't sold, they've only been adding, but it was to sell Ethereum to buy back more shares or something like that. So, I mean, we'll see how it plays. Does it suck that they even have the ability to sell it? Yes. Does it mean they're going to sell it? No. Bitminer was the same foot, and they have not sold anything. They've actually bought more. And let's talk about buying more, because some of the big wigs are buying more. We got breaking. BlackRock ETF has bought another $767 million in Bitcoin, largest inflow in 5 months. So the spot ETF, especially BlackRock's, has gone from negative funding to bigly positive funding off of these lows of Bitcoin amidst the Iranian turmoil, which is good to see. And then also we have Thomas Lee talking about Bitminer, bought another 50,928 Ethereum for $101 million at an average price of $1,976 per coin, right around where the price is now. They were probably the reason that we went above $2,000 to $2,100 yesterday, as they deployed $101 million. This leaves them with about $500 million in cash on the books currently without raising any more funds.
Shout out to Tom Lee, as always. What a Chad. Keeps buying ETH. And shout out to the boomers, holding it down, holding the ETF inflows down amidst all the whales seemingly selling, the 4-year cyclists trying to get out of the market. It's the boomers, the ETF buyers, who have come to the rescue once again. And it sort of begs the question, like, what is Bitcoin right now? Is it a proxy for the stock market? As, you know, many are suggesting, and that's what, if you overlay those two charts that look pretty similar. Or are people finally come around to the notion that this could be a digital version of gold, and it is good to buy in during times of turmoil? I don't know what to make of it, but I'm really happy that the boomers are stepping in while you Jeets are selling.
Yeah, you got a battle. We knew there was going to be a tug of war between 4-year cyclists and 5-year cyclists, but the real tug of war is happening between early investors selling for profits, believing in the 4-year cycle will exist forever, and new money coming in through these spot ETFs and these institutional on-ramps. And these people are buying in a big way with positive inflows amidst the market turmoil and really amidst Bitcoin being down in the 60s and barely even rallying a couple thousand off the lows. So, you know, we got the ETFs buying, we have Sailor buying, we have Tom Lee buying with Bitminer. We haven't heard anything from SharpLink in quite a while. I need to see what those guys are doing. I know they've been focused on the DeFi angle. We've kind of talked about that. Less about institution, more about the DeFi, and we know that altcoins have essentially been dead. They've been silently just collecting their staking rewards and compounding those. But when will SharpLink get back in the game? Well, it's going to happen when altcoins start having some green, because remember, they have ties to Linea and many other DeFi applications that produce bigger yields and better investment returns when the market is strong, not just when institutional dollars want to come in.
They'll be back buying at some point. Absolutely true. They're staking, like you said, pretty much their entire bag, as I understand it. But about that post that you just had up, there's this misconception in crypto, and I feel we need to continue to call it out. But I bet if we polled everyone in crypto and on crypto Twitter, what does it mean when the ETFs are buying? Option A, BlackRock itself is buying, or option B, BlackRock is buying on behalf of clients who are buying shares of ETF. I bet you 90% of people would choose option A, that BlackRock itself is buying Bitcoin. That is not the correct answer, folks. What's happening is people like, not myself, because I own actual spot Bitcoin, put it in cold storage like everyone should do. But if for some reason you don't want to go on Coinbase and be an actual Bitcoiner, what you can do is you can call up your brokerage, or you don't have to call anybody up. You just go online, sign your brokerage account, just like you buy a stock, you go and buy this Bitcoin ETF. And then when you do that, BlackRock has to buy actual Bitcoins. At least I think so. Maybe that's not even true anymore. I'm not sure how much rehypothecation is going on. But in any event, they have to buy on behalf of you, dear investor. So that's what's going on. It's not institutions buying. It's actually everyday average American. I'm sure also institutions who are buying these ETFs. But it's not BlackRock itself going through its own ETF to buy its own ETF shares. It's boomers. It's
Clients,
retail,
yeah.
mom and pop. It's also probably hedge funds too, buying these ETF shares using BlackRock's ETF. That's how it works, guys.
Yeah, that's when That's why I hate when I see the headline, BlackRock did this or BlackRock did that. It's like, no, they need to change the headline to BlackRock's ETF had this many inflows or exflows. Because like you said, there's institutions, there's hedge funds, there's financial advisors doing it on behalf of their clients. Because understand, if you're Edward Jones financial advisor, you might have 300 clients and you're deciding, hey, I want a 1% portfolio exposure to Bitcoin. Out of the 300, 250 of them signed off, and now I'm going and converting whatever 1% of their cash position and 250 of those clients all at the same time for the BlackRock ETF. That's what's going on behind the scenes. It's not BlackRock themselves buying or selling.
Yeah, I used to spend time on X like correcting people because, dude, these posts are just everywhere. And the institutions are buying, the institutions are selling. It's like, no, guys, stop. And I used to correct them, or I used to spend time doing that, and I just realized this is a fucking hopeless battle. So I'll be up here on my soapbox trying to tell you guys on the live stream how it is. Who knows how many people it reaches. But in any event, altcoins looking
We'll talk
pretty
about altcoins before we get
bearish.
into this chart. We got Fat Sammy in here saying EHEX been is currently up 30% against ETH the past 30 days, starting to potentially look good here, possibly bottom forming. Only around 1 billion EHEX available to buy. Remember, EHEX is where Richard Hart started. EHEX did a 10,000x or 10,000% gain, whichever one it was. And partially that was due to the genius of Richard Hart and the system of EHEX. Partially that was due to the fact that after the launch it sold off dramatically, and then you got that 10,000x off the lows. And then partially was due to what we call liquidity bonding. It got to ride the back of Ethereum surging from $90 to $5,000, and it got to outperform that, like we've said can happen. I know it's been years, but altcoins can outperform the big boys due to liquidity bonding and speculation when the market is absolutely surging. And now Fat Sammy, deep in the trenches of Pulse Chain and Hex, has been saying 1% a day keeps the banker away as EHEX continues to outperform Ethereum, even while Ethereum is just sideways around $2,000.
Love to see these bright spots in the altcoin market. Contrary to the Martini guys post here, which I guess we can get into, there have been some bright spots in altcoins. Certainly we're nowhere near an alt season where everything's running. But here and there, some outperformance can happen. So I'm not suggesting, selling your high conviction plays and trying to, time the pump on whatever coin you think is going to run here. But I don't know. Maybe the worst is in for altcoins, and we're starting to see the very, very beginning of some green shoots and a bit of a turnaround.
Yeah, 38% of altcoins are currently trading near their all-time lows, making this the worst period since the FTX crash. Capitulation levels are happening across the boards. The stage for the next cycle is being set. So he is saying, although 38% are near their all-time lows, he believes that you probably need to be buying somewhere down here or DCAing into your high conviction plays. Just like I did yesterday, I gave you the call in the Surf Dial and in the Patreon to, hey, if you don't own PTGC, you should probably buy it. It looks good. Or if you own it, why not DCA? You're coming off the lows. We are 40% off the lows. It looks like it wants to break out. And then what do you know? It went up 30% from that post. Sometimes these things just look too good not to own. Now, if Ethereum dumps again and we go to 1,500 ETH, is PTGC going to drop and maybe even go to a new low? Most likely. But at some point, if you're getting some dollars here and there, or if you just want to trade, you got to take the trade setups for what it is, get back into that trading mood, try to make some gains, and maybe add on to your high conviction plays at these depressed prices.
Yeah, I'm looking at this chart. Wow, we're really bottomed out. It's as if the past 2 years never happened. Because we're back to levels from 2022, which is pretty crazy to think. So look, some people who are taking risks now, they're going to get very rich in any upcoming alt season. Sure, risk is involved, but my guess is you're going to continue to see a handful of coins doing well here as the market slowly turns around and we bounce up off the lows here.
And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, we'll see if there's anybody comments, questions, concerns, throw it on YouTube. We'll get to it before we end the stream. We got one more talking point here, and this comes out of Pools Venture. We kind of mentioned it yesterday. Let's see what's going on here. Here you go. This is your cup of tea, Crypto Amaru. So if you want to get into it, shout out to the 92 people watching on Twitter. Shout out to the handful of people watching on YouTube and Facebook. Although you're watching, we can't see you. So shout out to you boomers over there on Facebook as well.
Yeah, man. So ever since we stepped into a leadership position at Pools, we've been pushing as hard as we can to revive the brand, revive the company, and get things back on track over there. I think it's going pretty well, all things considered. Not an easy task by any stretch. But this is just one further sort of initiative which we felt was worth reviving, which is the revival of Pools Ventures, the quote venture arm of Pools Finance, the Launchpad platform. So we announced the existence of Pools Ventures, or the revival of Pools Ventures, I think yesterday, and then now the first project that Pools Ventures is backing has been announced. It's called a project called Smart Sentinels. They're building AI agents. You can kind of think of them almost like an AI agent network. You can build your own agents on their network and then deploy them across different Web3 applications to do various things. Smart Sentinels is also building their own agents using their own tech. They've built an AI agent that does like very fast, very cheap, very accurate audits. They have one that's, I think, specific to the medical field, which is bringing in some revenue and provided some early traction. But I really like this team. They're based out of Eastern Europe. Early stage project, but they already have a community. And they already have a product that's generating revenue. So I really like those things. We came in and we said, we'll help you guys raise some funds, onboard some more VCs, sort of fix your token economics, so to speak. And so the other thing that you guys probably care about is if you're in the Pools Council group, or if you want to go in the backdoor method coming in through the Crypto Paradise DAO, that's fine too. But you will have the ability to invest into the seed round of this company, Smart Sentinels, at a 2 million FDV in the seed round, and you get yourself a free yield-bearing NFT, which is tied to their core product. So kind of a great opportunity. It reminds me, Nick, remember, I think it was 2023. It was after the big crash of 2022. I think it may have been early 23 or end of 22 when Dead Prez kind of came to us. That's an on-chain casino platform that we worked with for a while. They were struggling to raise funds, bearish market, and so we helped them come up with this seed round structure, or the full token economics. But the first round was a seed round of $50,000, very small, because that's what they kind of needed to get things off the ground. And everyone who participated in that, not only did you get the best token price, but you also got free NFT. This reminds me of that. And Dead Prez, by the way, went on to do 100 times for those people in the seed round. Something along those lines. Incredible returns. So am I guaranteeing that for Smart Sentinels? No. But the structure is very similar. $50,000 seed round, super duper tiny. Get yourself a yield-bearing NFT along with it. 2 million FDV, and also reasonable vesting terms. This is what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen.
I think what's most interesting to me is it says it's going to be on BNB chain. And it's part of the BNB meme season, and when CZ was more active before this 10-10 sell-off, and obviously he's been more busy trying to deflect Binance's responsibility in that sell-off, he's continually talked about needing or believing that AI projects, AI platforms need to come to crypto, wanting them to be on BNB chain, and quote, no offense, but there isn't very many, if any, good AI platforms or products that are built on BNB chain so far. That doesn't mean that Smart Sentinels will fall into his category of, yes, it's a good one and I'm going to promote it, but it is interesting that it is in a sector on a chain in which one of the most influential people in crypto thinks is a necessity and thinks there is a gap in the market right now. And now Sentinels might have their swing at that home run swing to be that AI platform that gets some recognition on BNB.
Well, I'll tell you what, the market already likes what they see out of Smart Sentinels. How do I know that? Apparently a scammer went out and deployed a fake scam version of the Smart Sentinels token, I think on Solana. And it ran to $7 million market cap. And then that happened again, and the second one ran to $5 million. So you're telling me that the fake scam Smart Sentinels can run to 7 million market cap. Meanwhile, the real one can't get there or can't exceed that? That just doesn't make sense to me. So you already have a bit of a proof of concept thanks to these scammers. And yeah, who knows? Maybe the BNB ecosystems look favorably upon Smart Sentinels because they are building real tech in the AI agent and AI sector, which I guess, like you said, CZ is pushing himself.
Let's see what the prices are doing before we wrap this up. The Gray's currency has achieved another green candle to target number one, in which I said in the private group was 0.0012, and currently it is at 0.00121. So shout out to everybody who got involved. If you're a trader, maybe you want to take quick profits. If you're a long-term holder and want that passive income, simply hold it in the wallet and watch that number go up. Ethereum, come on, come on, come on, 1945. Not doing anything, holding the lows at 1945. You really want to get back above 2,000 for Ethereum. And Bitcoin falls slightly below 67,000, but holding $66,767 as the Nasdaq continues to fall down over 2% on the day, down 2.66% to 24,300 with major support at 24,000, which would be less than 1% lower for the Nasdaq.
Yeah, I'm not expecting much in the way of green candles today. This is like the day after the war sort of has gone public in the markets anyway. The markets opened on Monday. Didn't do terribly yesterday, surprisingly. But today, everyone, I guess, is thinking, oh, geez, this thing may drag on. I think I saw that energy prices, gas futures in Europe are up like 50%. Something retarded. Something that like makes no logical sense, but markets reacting in a fearful manner, and this is what we're seeing. This is going to affect the rest of the market, this fear and overreaction. And are we going to World War III? And, will this last forever? And will Strait of Hormuz never open up? And, all the panicans out there. By the way, I love that term panicans. Have you seen this out there on socials? The people who I guess are protesting or they're against the...
Yeah, they're idiots. I mean, they're people who call themselves feminists, but then they're hoping... You're feminist and an American citizen, but you say America sucks, Iran is great, and you need to defend the Iranian regime who is killing people who are doing the exact same thing you are. If you were in Iran and you protested, they just showed you they will slaughter you, put you in a body bag, and put you on display by the tens of thousands. That isn't happening to you here in the United States, and you're a feminist, but yet you're supporting a regime that says that women who go to prison, if they're virgins, need to be raped, so if they die in prison, they can't go to heaven. Make that make sense? I don't get it, but I guess if you make $15 an hour from the Soros family, that you'll do about anything when you gotta, rather than going to an actual job.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think we do need to distinguish between the paid protesters, of which there are many, and also the paid influencers. There seem to be a lot of, I guess I thought they were right-wing influencers like Nick Fuentes or who's that other, Candace Owens and so on, who... I don't know what to make of their politics. I think it's just like anti-Semitism, anything to do with Israel. It's all a conspiracy. Everyone's a pedophile. I don't know what it's just a conspiratorial way of thinking, I guess.
Yeah, it's all about clicks because Nick Fuentes essentially was conservative, got people to vote for Trump. Now he says that the ticket is Rubio and J.D. Vance. He's going to vote for the Democrats out of spite. But his quote is Iranian war, which is like, okay, that's one thing. But then he said, no border wall, no deportations, blah, blah, blah. It's like, what are you talking about? The border wall was literally sold by Biden. It's being bought and rebuilt. There's no new crossings. And there's literally protests across the country due to ICE deportation. So it's just like, with those people, understand that their livelihood is based on clicks and attention. And for you to go out there and say that you're going to vote Democrat because of the Iranian thing versus Republican, even though everything else, the Conservative Party, the Republican Party is on your side versus Democrat, is just you talking in hyperbole and trying to get clicks. Because you don't actually believe that. You don't actually believe that.
Or it could be they're just insane. I don't know, man. If you listen to the clip, this seemed like a genuinely held belief by this maniac. But if anyone thinks for a second, look, it's just, it kind of reminds me of, there's Puritans on either side of the aisle. On the left, it's if you don't toe the exact party line and everything's super far left, well, you're excommunicated. Or like Nick Fuentes type, who if you don't do exactly perfectly 100% of everything I want, if there's a million illegals and you deported 900,000, well, you're a failure and I'm voting for the Democrats. Like, what the hell is wrong with you, dude? Nothing's perfect. You're never gonna get everything you want out of a politician. There's two options here in the U.S. So it's which side is going to be a little bit better for you in your life. That's the decision you need to make. It's not who's perfect. Oh, you're not perfect. I'm voting for the other terrible option. What the hell is wrong with people?
Well, what's interesting is we kind of talked about that we don't think China will militarize. China does not want to militarize against the U.S. or against anybody, really. They just want their oil, and they want their economy to keep humming. Apparently, China demands that Iran, Israel, and U.S. immediately stop military operations. That's interesting. Of course, that's what China wants. China wants this all dampened down. They're kind of allies with Iran, but they don't want to militarize for Iran. They're allies out of convenience. They're very transactional. Iran, you're really close to us, so we want to be friends with you so you don't bomb us and don't send terrorists here. But also, you got something we need, which is a lot of oil and a lot of energy. So let's take that on the cheap as well. And we promise we'll protect you if the U.S. and Israelis ever attack you. Oh, wait, they attacked you? Okay, let's just stop the fighting, guys. Let's get back to producing that oil and funding our economy, okay?
I wonder what China would do in the event that, let's just say this war never happened, Biden was in charge, and Iran develops 11 nuclear warheads.
They're going to take Taiwan.
And they start menacing everyone around them. And they start saying, hey, you know, China, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to do what you want, or otherwise I'm going to bomb you. Because they're insane. Like, they're completely maniac. They don't believe in mutually assured destruction. They could have easily shot a nuke off at China. I didn't trust the mullah for a second. Neither should you. So imagine a world where they had 11 nuclear warheads. That's the news that came out today, guys. You can say it's a conspiracy. Stephen Witkoff's lying. It's just like Iraq. Okay, maybe. I don't know. But I listened to the clip of him, and he seemed pretty genuine in saying, look, they just immediately straight up told us in negotiations that they're about to build, and they got the capacity to build 11 nukes in a short period of time. Do you really want to live in a world where complete insane maniacs who believe if they die and martyr themselves will have sex with 72 virgins? You want those people with 11 nukes? That's the two options we were weighing, guys. It wasn't like, oh, the world was all peaceful and everyone loved each other and we were singing Kumbaya together, and then Trump just had to bomb Iran out of nowhere. That's not the world we were living in, folks. So, I don't know. This whole thing irks me a little bit. All the takes I'm seeing on X are very asinine and ridiculous. Either you're misinformed or you're just fully down the conspiracy rabbit hole and don't believe anything anybody tells you, and Stephen Witkoff's a liar, and Trump's a liar, and it's all for oil, and it's because of a pedophile conspiracy, or whatever you want to tell yourself. Israel's trying to take over the world, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what's going on through those people's heads. The world, as I look at it, is the Iranians, that regime anyway, should never have been allowed to have a nuclear weapon. They were very close to getting one. They weren't going to negotiate. We gave them 3 chances. They gave them 3 off-ramps to relinquish their, nukes and be a real country and care for their people and not just one that's trying to destroy Israel and death to chance the U.S. We gave them those opportunities. They declined. And then the option was Iran gets 11 nukes or we prevent them from getting 11 nukes. And Trump went with option B. So, I don't know. Call me crazy. Call me insane. I would have done the same thing.
We'll see how it keeps playing out on the market so far. Not so great, but not really a black swan-ish on crypto just yet, as it has held the previous lows. We have seen some bright lights and some altcoins and Bitcoin and Ethereum even running into their overhead 200 moving averages before getting rejected. So let's see if we can find ourselves some footing, get another revitalization, as we've seen gold and silver drop by more than the entire crypto market cap in the past day. Unbelievable, as silver falls back into the 70s and gold falls back below 5,000 per ounce, dropping by double digits in the past 24 hours.
You know who we can blame for silver is apparently Jane Street. Jane Street's allegedly behind the silver manipulation too. They were behind the Bitcoin manipulation, as the story goes. They're behind silver. There's probably truth to it, guys. But my guess is like anything. It's not just one, anything is a global market. It's not just one manipulator out there. Probably a host of these vulture-like hedge funds or high-frequency trading market-making companies. I know a lot of them. There's a bunch of them out there. None of them are looking out for your best interests. They're just trying to...
Some of them are barely even looking out for their clients' best interests. We've seen that over the years with market makers, too. Not even looking out for the project who hired them. Sometimes just looking out for their own bag.
Well, some of these places don't even have clients, really. Some are just like pure trading funds, and they're just making money for themselves. And dude, it's a PvP world out there, folks. So I don't know. Jane Street's probably a boogeyman, but just one boogeyman. There's a lot of boogeymen out there. But anyway, if you're not trading, as I recommend, you should not be a trader unless you're just doing very conservative setups and like something like what Nick's group does. Don't do leverage. If you're just like me, a long-term buyer and holder of Bitcoin, Ethereum, blue chips, and you're playing around an altcoin game, you don't really need to worry too much about the Jane Street type manipulation. But man, I stay away from silver. I would stay away from silver because that asset is dog poop.
I think that's all we got for today, guys. What do you think? We went through about 7 news articles, went over the Bitcoin and ETH chart, the gold and silver chart. The odds for Polymarket for the Fed to cut rates have dropped from 3% down to 2%. because of the fear that inflation is going to go up due to oil prices, but the Fed always says they're on a lag. So I don't even think they're going to see this recent data if they stick to how they've been monitoring things for the past year. If they switch it up, well, then you know it's more political than you could ever imagine.
Yeah, well, they've already done this in the past where they've made a policy choice based on the fear or belief of future things happening rather than the data as it, dictated from the past. The tariffs were a great example of that. Inflation wasn't showing up in the data, but they were convinced that it was going to.
And then it didn't happen.
And then it didn't happen. So they'll speculate about the future and make policy decisions based on that when it's a firmly held belief of theirs, like tariffs cause inflation.
You gotta
energy
love it.
prices cause inflation, which
You
by the
gotta
way,
love
energy
an
prices
organization.
cause inflation is pretty obvious. But we'll see what they do. The reason why they're not going to cut, by the way, is all those things, but also because they think that they're kind of close to the neutral rate at 3.5% right now. What's interesting is the Fed fund rate is actually not that high, but yet the actual interest rate that everyday Americans are paying is still close to 6% or above 6%.
Yeah, make that make sense.
Sucks.
Yeah, make that make sense. What's
That
funny
really-
is there's millions and millions of dollars of annual salary in the hands of who also gets to decide when to print money, and yet they're getting outperformed by crypto paradise pundits on what's going to happen from tariffs. I don't understand how you can be so wrong about things while being paid so much to be smarter. I just don't get it. And that's kind of what led me to believe that it is a political thing. And I think we've seen that over the year. But yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand how people who can get so much money, especially government employees, get so much tax dollars, and then you're just absolutely so retarded. I don't get it.
Well, there's a phenomenon called groupthink, which every organization can experience this unless you push back against it. But basically what will happen is you get a group of smart people in a room together, experts, whatever, and then there's an influential voice pushing some narrative, and everyone's like, yeah, that's right. No one wants to be that contrarian voice in the room because, people might not like you, or there's, risks to your job if you, take that wrong approach and things turn out badly. Groupthink's a real thing, so I think that's probably a part of it. Politically, I'm sure there's a role to play, their hatred of Trump, whatever. But the good news is this Fed is out. In 2 months, May, I think, either May or June, that's when Kevin Warsh comes in, and hopefully he can corral a new set of governors around his viewpoints, and we get some easing here, because damn, the economy really needs it. And so do my bags.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep an eye on the bags over the next 12 hours before we go live again. And right now, all the markets are down besides a couple altcoins. Interesting to see some altcoins. Cody up 3%, CAD up a percentage, Manta up 3.5%, Surf Token up 5%, PTGC up 11%, 12%. But everything else, gold, silver, Ethereum, Bitcoin, NASDAQ, Dow, everything is red by multiple percentage points. So we'll see what's going to happen here.
Yeah, my guess is, again, this is a reaction to some of the craziness we're seeing in energy markets. Remember in COVID when energy, I think, didn't oil go to like negative?
It went to like zero.
It went to zero, went to negative because I think there's costs associated with storing the oil, so somehow it can go negative. Anyway, that was like a wild time in the energy markets, and that spilled over to the regular markets, and like it was just a scary, crazy time. But I remember buying that dip that we had a day in March 2020 where Bitcoin dumped like 50% a day. I had $10,000, and I aped in to Bitcoin and ETH, and that's one of my best trades ever. Is this a repeat of that? I don't know. We haven't seen the kind of like crazy market sell-off on the news of the Iran war, probably because it was already priced in. But expect the unexpected, expect craziness, expect volatility. We're living through crazy times, guys. But remember, ask yourself this question. When you're looking at your bags and you're looking at, I don't know, your portfolio or the market or whatever else, the depression on crypto Twitter, and ask yourself, would you rather have Iran have 11 nukes or have your bags down for a couple of weeks?
Fair question.
Just saying. All right, guys. Good stuff today. Hope you all enjoyed it. We'll be back with another one on tomorrow. Until then, see you guys on the beach.